real estate since 2012. Done a number of deals, quite a few deals. I work with a lot of investors, so comping is something I'm doing every day. Just different levels of comping, residential sales, listings. We'll go through the differences. I feel like there's a difference when you're comping for a buyer you're working with, you're comping for a listing you're going to sell, or you're comping for an investor. I feel like there's a difference in the approach and what you're actually looking for. So I don't know the level of all the agents in here, so I'm just going to start. I'll start at the beginning. We have RPR. So I don't know if whoever's familiar with RPR. It's a free service that is through Armless, and it's right on your it's right on your tab, or it should be. I know they changed it, but it's right on your MLS tab. A free service pops up. You enter a property, it spits out a value. It's a great baseline, somewhere to start at least. If you have no idea about a property, you put it in there, and it'll give you a range. It'll say your property is worth from here to here. Here's our confidence level, and you start there, and you can refine that a little bit. Doesn't it take into account condition? Obviously, because it can't. It's just it's a program that's running an algorithm. That's all it's doing. You can refine it though. You can go in there and you can make it as refined or as unrefined as you want. And so this is a property I sold. It was my former house, so I know it very well. So I feel like it's a good one to have an example of. So it's sold at $295. You can see that. Okay, they're saying it's worth $287. My refined value is $301, and a comp analysis is $286. But it did sell, appraised, closed, $295. So there's all kinds of different tabs. This is obviously not a live link. This is just a screenshot, so I can put it in here. We'll go into RPR, the live version, in just a second. But it's telling you can do. Here's their right here. They're 5-star. That means they're pretty confident. It's in a subdivision, which means that there's like for likes. There's many different models of that same style. So they pulled the comps. That's what they're pretty confident that's going to be a good value. Now I sold it off market one day. Appraisal came in, $295. So I was pretty confident with where I priced it. I didn't use RPR. I just used comps in the neighborhood. Okay, so that's RPR. So then there's Monsoon. Now Monsoon is also available through the Armless. Same tab, same button. There's a Monsoon button. You click it. You put an address in. It'll pop up all the tax data, and then there's a button that says comps. It says comparables. It goes and it spits out a value. So that is a really quick search, really fast. I find that one to be. Sometimes I don't even find the comps that they're telling me that are comps. Like I'll pull up a square, and they're telling me it's within a square mile, and I don't pull that comp. Like I can't find it. Like to me it's a little bizarre. So I use it in a pinch if I have to, if I need some information. If RPR is telling me that they have no idea, it's like they're 5 stars, they're 4 stars, they're 3, they don't know. I'll pull up Monsoon just to check, just to see what the comp is. So you can see this is again just another screenshot of the same house. They went across, and that's the other thing with Monsoon. They're going to go across roads. They're going to go across into new subdivisions. They're going to go year built. It's going to be just a huge range. They don't really care. They're looking for what you can refine it to. Is you can refine it to square footage, lot, pool, and when it was sold, and location. That's all you can't tell to not search across Lake Pleasant Parkway, which is a big boundary. You can't tell to not search past 91st Avenue, which is a big boundary. Those are things that it's not going to do for you. That's why it's just another quick way to do the comp. Okay. Now comps for buyers. What are you looking for? Well, you're looking at past sales because you have a buyer that's looking at that property right today. This is the value you need to assign to it today. Fit and finish. How's it compared to other properties? With basically, you're looking at pictures. That's the best you can do. You're looking because obviously, hopefully, if you're writing a contract, you've been in the house with your buyer. You know what the style is. You know what they have in there. You know the square footage. You know the materials that have been finished, the property, and then you're trying to find properties that look similar to that property, which, you're basically doing a best guess, which comping and even appraisers will tell you it's one person's opinion on that specific day at that specific time. Tomorrow it could be something different. The day before it could have been something different. 10 days from now it will be something different. So you're trying to identify the contract price for that specific day. Okay. In the location, obviously you want something that is in the, if it's a subdivision where there's a bunch of different stuff, you want the same subdivision, you want the same year built, because as you guys know with new build communities, how they build communities from forever ago till now, they have the basic models, then they have the intermediate models, and then they have the high-end models. And those can all be within a half mile, and they can all be very similar square footage, but the price and what they sold for are not going to be the same. So that's going to be something, as you do this more and more and more and more, that's not something like I can just say, hey, you know, that's at that community you're going to have to do these properties. That's something you're going to have to learn when you see these. That's something you just pick up over time, because again, this is not just a hard and fast rules that here's how you comp. This is how I comp, and it's more, I guess it's an art is what Appraiser will tell you. It's an art. It's something that you just get better at. You get a good feel for it. It's hard to peg a value, but it's easy to peg a range, and then you go from there. Now sellers, okay. Sellers, I feel like a little bit different, because now you're setting the listing that you got the agreement. You have a set time when it's going to start, when it's going to end. That list date can go for 6 months, go for a year, you know, whatever. And obviously now we're in a pretty hot market; things are moving pretty quick. But if you list on date, say you list tomorrow, if it doesn't sell for 3 months, is your value that you assign today still going to be good for 3 months? So you kind of want to look at projections, like what's the area doing? You still need to look at what has sold, but if someone comes in a week or a month or 6 months, if that area is progressing 5%, you know, over year, then obviously in 6 months that value might be a little different. So it's just something, I guess speculative is a good word for it. That's what I said, speculative.
How do you calculate that then? How would you do that projection?
Well, that's based on, you know, you take your market stats is the best way to do it. Like if you know, for instance, that Scottsdale, like 85254 sold year over year. You looked last year and they were selling for 400. This year they're selling for 410. Well, you know that reasonably you can expect in the next 6 months that you're going to be 415, 420, as long as market trends continue the same exact way. That's how I usually do it, because with all the data right now, I feel pretty comfortable saying for the next year at least, I don't see a slowdown, maybe a leveling off of prices, but I don't see a slowdown or a pullback. So I would say that you could reasonably expect that for the next year at least, that prices are going to at least gradually go up. So I wouldn't price something aggressively for a month ago, you know, and not capitalize on that for your sellers, because obviously that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get them the highest dollar, right? So there's that one. And then comps for investors. Okay, this one is a little bit tougher, and this one takes a lot of experience, because they're looking at two things. They're looking at what's the value of that property as it sits right now, and how can they make a profit on it, and then they're looking at if they put X amount of dollars into it, what's it going to be worth? So you're looking at current comps. Now that one you're kind of looking at past sales a little harder, okay? Because you need to know today in current condition, like what's a reasonable price for that property. You know, it's not if it's 30, 60, 90. So we look at stuff that's day one, then we look at stuff day 60, we look at stuff day 90, you know, 120. If it's sitting, why is it sitting? So you got to. And to me, you're looking at something a little different. You're looking at what can we reasonably purchase this property for today? What's it worth? So you're taking into account how much work does it need, how much, you know, where does it sit in the community? Where is it near any good comps? Is it? And then so that's when you're looking at the ARV. So after repair value is fancy term for a guess, because you're guessing. You're going to use the best information you have. Like if there's something that's been remodeled that's pretty close to what you're doing, you use that for a comp. So if someone says, hey, that guy got 385 a year ago, like I have an investor right now, we're under contract. We have a property at 290. There's a comp in the community from a year ago, 385 with no garage. We have a garage. So my investors are going to hold me to, do I think they can get over 400 today? So a year ago, Central Phoenix, year over year, 5%, 6% with a garage, which any appraiser will probably tell you this is another part that's hard to comp, because Someone will tell you it's $5,000 for a garage. Someone will tell you it's $10,000 for a garage. Someone will tell you depends on where you're at. Now, condo in Central Phoenix garage is pretty valuable, I would say. So I would say it's between $8,000 and $10,000. So they're going to hold me to that because I'm telling them, looking at everything, we have a model match in the community that was over a year ago that got 385 fixed up. It was fixed up as well, so we're going to fix it up, and that's what our price is going to be. So now I'm going to take you through what RPR actually looks like. So this is my house. So the sold price again is $295, and so we're going to look at the refined value. So the first thing it's going to do, it's going to ask you to confirm the facts. Like, what are the facts of the house? Because a lot of times it'll be flat wrong. I don't know why, it just will be. But you have 4 bedrooms, 3 baths. You can apply changes. So the value changes right there, and then you have you can add improvements. So if you're in the community, you're going to sell the house. You're the listing agent. This is something that you know that there's been some changes, there's been some upgrades, there's been some they've added granite, they've added a pool, something like that. You know that the values change, right? So you can change that, and then home conditions, and it's going to ask you local market conditions. It's going to say, is it better or worse? And then if you change it, it'll change it. If I go all the way up, it added $20,000 to the value. If I go back down, it takes it out. And this is all just based on a formula. It's not based off of anything that. So it's just to help. It's to help you comp it out. And then exterior. It's going to ask you again. Is it close to? So what they're saying is it better? Is it the same as the rest of the area? So if it's been repainted in the last couple of years, and I would say that's pretty much the same as the rest of the area. It's not better. It's not worse. It's just it is what it is. And then interior, same thing. They're going to go through lot size. Is it better or worse? Is it bigger? Is it smaller? What is it? And then you can see every time I change one of these things, it takes off valuation. And then the view, they're going to say they add quite a bit for the view. I don't know what a view is worth. A view golf course could be worth a lot, but it could be worth nothing if you're in the strike zone. And does everybody know what a strike zone is?
Yes.
Okay. So it could be worth.
Inside of a dog leg, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or if you're on a par 3 and you're right by the green, you're going to get some golf balls. So that I've seen that kill. I had a beautiful house in Arrowhead, cheapest house in the community, and then my seller had 3 buckets of golf balls out there. And the buyer comes out and he's like, do you get hit by golf balls? And he tells him no, and I'm like, really? So it killed the deal just because we're in the strike zone, and like he had the plastic on the glass. I mean, he had the whole 9 yards. Everybody knew that that's in the strike zone. You're not going to get the same value as guy 5 houses down who's at the tee box. So it's just you could be on the golf course, but where are you on the golf course? Or where are you on the lake? Are you on the lake where it's private and you're not looking at anything, or are you on the lake where everybody has to access it? There's a difference, and that difference is so subjective that it's going to take time, and that's where you have to look at, like, if there's nothing that's sold, it's going to be subjective, and that's all that comping is. It's very subjective. There's no real way for you to, because you're going to set the price, and if someone comes and buys it, that price is still subject to appraisal unless it's cash. So, and then that person has an opinion, and then yes, sir.
Andrew, let me ask you a quick question. So on RPR, and it seems like you trust this way more than Monsoon with that.
Way more, yeah.
I agree with that. The baseline on the data that they pull is based on what point in time. And the reason I ask that is if you go in and start making these changes, on the first page, if they say that the original estimate is 287,
yep.
Have they already? How do you?
So they're pulling their estimate is RVM, and they're updating it. So the last time they updated it was June 13th. So their RVM is their proprietary software, and we'll look at the details real quick.
So it's pretty recent. It's
pulling what any appraiser would do. It's pulling 6 months, but it's not. What it's not doing is it's not filtering, like it's giving, they're relying heavily on price per square foot, which I don't know. I don't know if that's the best way to go. I personally don't like price per square foot because you can get, obviously you can't comp a 2-story and a single story, but if you get 2,500 square feet versus 2,200 square feet, you're not going to get that $200 a square foot that 2,200 square feet get. You're not going to get that at 2,500 square feet. It just doesn't work that way. I don't know why it doesn't work that way. You would think the math would. It's just math, and it would continue on. But in my experience, the appraisers never value. As square footage goes up, the valuation price per square foot goes down. So it's just, there's some baseline that they use that is acceptable. Like for a community, say Scottsdale, say you're $200 a square foot, or $220 a square foot for something that's 1,600 square feet. Well, if you get over 2,400 square feet, that 220 is probably 200, 190, something like that. And that's just, I honestly, I'm not an appraiser. I don't know how they get that valuation or where that number comes from. And it's probably, if you ask 10 appraisers, it'd be 10 different answers. So it's just, to me, that's kind of what they're using. So you can go in here and you can edit this. Like you can take out, like for instance, they have this one at 1679, which is 200 square feet smaller than the subject, which, I mean, that's like 15%. I mean, that's pretty big. And so what they're gonna do is they're gonna say, okay, I got 240. Here's the price per square foot. We're gonna apply that to the 1,892 square foot that this house is, and extrapolate the value that way. Which I would probably not use that as a comp. I would take that out. I would look for something that's probably 5 to 10%, 10% max, unless I'm really, really struggling. If there's literally nothing that's sold in the last 6 months, I don't have a comp, then maybe I'll pull something that's like 10%. Because, like I said, the valuation is just not the same. It's not, the appraiser's not going to value it the same way. They're not going to give you a condo, they're not going to give you 190 a square foot when everything else is 170. They won't, even though, it may make sense, but they won't do it. So, I do value this one a little bit higher because you can actually, because I've pulled so many comps in Monsoon, and sometimes I just can't find I can't find their comp, I can't find, or for whatever reason it's not showing up a comp that I know closed. I know it's 3 doors down and it closed and it's similar. I know it's there, but for whatever reason Monsoon, it doesn't know it's there. And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know why their program does that or why it doesn't pull it, but it can help. I mean, it just helps. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll go through here and okay, I got a recently sold, that's my house. So when did it sell, right? 81 days. And then their RVM, they stay pretty local. So when I comped this property out for the appraiser, I had one good comp in my neighborhood. And it sold more than 6 months ago. And it was 284. And it had a pool and it was the exact same house. So I had to go outside the neighborhood. And I went still within a quarter mile. So I went, you can see the bigger map. I went to this neighborhood, right here, because the houses, the year built, everything was very similar to my house. It was built in 2000, mine was built in 99. Square footages were similar, because I just didn't have an option. I didn't have anything, and you got to provide something to them. You can't, like, if you're a listing agent and you're not meeting the appraiser, like, you're not doing your job, because that's your one and only shot to influence the price that you're going to get. And if you have solid comps, or if you have a very compelling case, very compelling argument, they're going to have a hard time saying, no, you're absolutely incorrect, we're not going to give you that value. And at least it opens the dialogue, because they're going to ask you, why did you come up with this number? Yes, sir.
Let me ask you another question. I know that you put together those books for appraisers.
Yeah.
I've seen those and they're awesome.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you get blowback from appraisers where they get butt sore, like, hey, I can do my job, don't try to influence me? How often do you get that?
It's, in my experience, it's always about how you approach them, right? I've always presented it like I'm trying to help, like I'm just trying to help. Like I know we're asking for a big number. I know. So I do a lot of remodels, a lot of flips. I have a lot of investor clients, and we're always right on the edge. We're right on the precipice of failure, where an appraiser's gonna lose, we're gonna
It's called
lose.
cutting edge, it sounds like. It's in the front.
You know, I like to say it that way because that's how it feels. You know, it's just like these guys they hold all the cards. So I put together. So what Johnny's talking about is we put together. You know, my business partner and I, Bryce, we put together a book, and in the book we have everything we did to the property listed out. No prices, just what we did to it. Before pictures, after pictures, and then our list of comps. And here and compelling reasons, we highlight why is it a comp. And I've taken to doing that to every listing that I have, and I haven't missed one appraisal in the last 2 years. I just haven't missed it yet.
Did you say no price? Just
On remodel, like work, no. I don't ever put a price because that's subjective, and my price is probably better than what anybody else can get. So if I put my price, they're like, oh, okay.
We're not gonna give that.
That's not because my price isn't retail, because I did general contracting for 12 years, so I have my guys and I get good prices. So I don't put retail because that's subjective. Like you could ask 20 different contractors and get 20 different prices. So I don't ever do that.
Andrew, one follow-up question to that, sorry. Do you find that appraisers look more heavily on RPR than monsoon, like you and I do?
No, appraisers will use monsoon. They're not going to use RPR. They're going to use monsoon, and they're going to use the armless database. They're not going to pull RPR. I've never seen one do it. It's mostly what they're going to do. What we're going to do. I'm going to go in and actually select comps on armless, close with a square, all that stuff. So that's why I'm saying it's important, because their square is going to be X, and your square might be Y. And if you have a very compelling reason why that one should be included, you know, it's necessary for you to be there and meet them, because otherwise, you know, you can call them and maybe it'll work. But if you have the opportunity to, it's always nice to meet them, put a face to the name, because I feel like it's a lot harder to tell them no when they know who you are. You know, they know who you are, they know what you're doing. You're trying to help them do their job. You're like, that's how I always present it. I'm here to help you. Like, any questions? Here's why we think it's this. Here's why we price it this way. And I also put any other contracts I got. Like, I had one that I just closed on 2 days ago, and we had 4 offers, and every one of them was way over list, and every one of them made me very nervous on appraisal. Every single one, because I didn't have anything that supported it. But I put in there, here we got 210, we got 210, we got 208. The one we took was 205. And we took 205 because it was conventional with no concessions. And the other ones were 210 with 3%. So, yes, sir.
So you said you're at every single
Everyone that they, because I'll change the status.
Right.
I say in Armless I'll put appointment required, listing permission required. So that way, because appraisers will get fined just like we will if they access a lockbox that has that information on it. So they have to call you, they have to set an appointment. And if you can be there and meet them, I always do. Like I had one where the guy just showed up because I didn't set the value, so I'm waiting for that one to come back. I'm a little nervous about it, but I didn't have a chance to meet him. He showed up at like 7 a.m. on Father's Day. Like, okay, well, that's a tough one for me to be at, and I didn't know you were going to be there. He just showed up because it just said vacant. So that was my mistake. But we'll see what happens. I think we'll get it. But you know, it's. I don't view it as obtrusive. I mean, really. I mean, I feel like you're there. Your job as the listing agent is to be an advocate for your client, be an advocate for the seller, and if you're not there, I mean, it's not the end of the world, and a lot of people don't. But I just feel like that is something that I tell people in my listing presentations. I'm going to be here. I'm going to meet them. I don't go to inspections. I feel like that's weird, but I'll go to appraisals just to meet him, because that's a conversation, and he's basically. I mean, it's so crazy to me. Like, I don't know if anybody saw that article Jason Mitchell wrote about the appraisals and where they're at, but it's so crazy to me that one person, even though I have a buyer who's willing to pay what I said the house is worth, and he's willing to pay that price, the appraiser holds that everybody, the lender, the title rep, my work, the buyer's agent's work, that buyer wanting to move into that house, everybody's payday, everybody's future, everybody's moving forward, that one guy says yes or no, right? And it's just, I personally don't want to leave that to chance. because if I can help it, like it's just something that I feel like as listing agents we should do, and it, you know, I've like to Johnny's questions, I've never had anybody be real like why are you here? Like what are you doing here? They've always been pretty receptive to it. There's, you know, it's just
Only once I had that, hey, I know what I'm doing, I don't need you to influence me, or like I was trying to do something nefarious, I was just trying to help.
Well,
Using one of your books like you showed me, which are awesome, so.
yeah, it's just I don't, you know, I don't know why, you know, I don't know why anybody wouldn't want help. Like if someone's willing to help me and give me information that I could, I mean, it's not like you're providing some random stuff that's from nowhere. It's all information that they can go verify. It's not made up. It's from Armless. Like I just print out the Armless data sheets that show conventional. You know, always show the ones that show conventional if there was any concessions like that, because they'll take that into account as well. So it's not like the information is made up. It's information that they could go pull themselves, right? So it's I feel like it's just something valuable.
Nice.
So here's now moving on to Monsoon. So now Monsoon, you'll see that RPR pulled a very specific square, like in my neighborhood, within the boundaries of the streets. Now this is Monsoon. I said located within 1 mile square footage. Yes, sir.
How can you verify if there's been concessions on past comps?
You're relying on the listing agent to do their job.
To say that there's been concessions? Or?
Yeah, because they'll have to enter it into the MLS. It'll be pulled up.
It's only at the bottom.
I'll show you.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So right here, where it says buyer concession to seller, seller concession to buyer, right here at the bottom, it tells you conventional, loan amount, what kind of all that stuff that they ask you to do when you change status. Like you're relying on them to do their job and do it properly. So that's why data integrity is so. Yes, sir.
Just going back a few minutes,
Yeah.
you said you don't include, like you replace all the cabinets in the house, that costs you 15 grand. You don't say that 15,000 in the cabinets, but as a total, you put 85,000 in this rehab.
I don't put a value
You
to
don't
it.
say you did 85,000.
I never do because
Labor costs, they don't really care.
it's just that's subjective. Like the price, like here's what I bought it for, here's what I'm selling it for, like how much I spent to get it from point A to point B. I don't feel like that's any of your business. Like just here's what it is. Like here's the product, here's the finished product, and it's I guess not any of their business. I mean sometimes they'll ask. I've had them ask.
Yeah, I've had them asked too.
And I give them a ballpark of how much I think it would cost if someone went to Home Depot to do it, right? I mean, because that's going to be the most expensive place to go. You know, that's what I would say. You know, it's just I give them that price, but it's not a price. I try not to. Like I don't give them any information that can't be verified, right? Because I don't want them to. Then I don't want it to go down the road where they're looking for my receipts and they're looking for. Because I've had that happen where like we've included prices, and then it goes. So the first appraiser says it's good. Well, we sold it for double the price in 90 days. Okay, and then so that triggered a desk review. Okay, so that desk review guy never came out. It's the craziest thing. So we had 185 was our contract. 180. The first appraiser said it was worth 191. Okay, triggered desk review because it was 90 days. Within 90 days, we sold it for double. The desk review guy told us it's worth 145. And so we're like, okay, well, clearly we need a third appraisal because that doesn't make any sense. And I don't know if you guys are familiar, been down the road of underwriting guidelines, but they're going to go with this. They're going to go with desk review. They're going to tell me it's worth 145, even though I have a contract at 185, and the first appraiser said 191. That's why sometimes the financing world is just so crazy. I don't understand it. But the third appraisal came out and said, no, it's worth 187. So they took that. They took those two and threw out the first one. And I don't know, this is not an appraisal class. I don't know if you guys are familiar with appraisal scores, risk scores. That's what's going to trigger a desk review. So like if they assign your property a 5, that's the riskiest appraisal that underwriter's going to look at, and they might say, okay, it's a 5, we're not going to do it. We need another appraisal. So I don't know if anybody's ever had that happen to them, but it's in the investment world. It's pretty common where you'll get something that's flagged as a really risky appraisal, and there's nothing you do about it. It just goes to desk review. Yes, sir.
How do you discredit the desktop?
We didn't. They still had it in there, but it was one of 3. So they took the 2. And the third one had a better score. I mean, this is all, like, I'm not a lender and I'm not an appraiser. I don't know, all I know is how these things get triggered. I don't know when, in their back office, when they're talking to each other, I don't know how you don't discredit somebody, obviously. I mean, you can't, and they're gonna say whether an appraiser is better than another. That's how they assign whether an appraiser is better than an appraisal is better than another by the risk score. And one is obviously no-brainer, we're fine. Most of them get 3, and then you get 4, and they're a little bit sketchy about that. And then if you get a 5, there's gonna be another appraisal done.
Wow.
And yeah,
So every, no matter what, every appraisal we get done has.
every appraisal has a score. Every single
Can
one.
we find out like?
Yeah, you can ask your lender.
Okay.
Ask your lender, and they'll tell you
Okay.
what the appraisal score is. It's,
No.
yeah, for sure. They all know, and they all tell you if you get a 5, you're gonna get another one, or at least a desk review, or at least if you're wondering why an appraisal was due back on a certain day and you haven't heard anything, it's because underwriting is looking at that, trying to decide if they're gonna ask for another appraisal because the score probably wasn't something they were comfortable with. So
a 5 isn't for sure, but 4.
I mean, it's not even a for sure, but it's like they're leaning pretty heavily towards either asking for another appraisal, asking for that appraiser to check his work, or at least triggering a desk review. Now, a desk review is the absolutely worst possible thing that can happen because you have 0 access, you don't know who's doing it, they don't come to the property, which I don't know how you evaluate something
Right.
from your desk.
And a lot of times aren't even local. I mean, it could be a
It's
desk
just-
review for somebody
It's
in
just
their
it just gets triggered.
Yeah.
So the guy for our property, he never came to the property. He just pulled up some stuff and said, okay, that's what it's worth, $145. So, you definitely don't want a desk review unless you. In our case, we had a lender who we didn't represent him. He wasn't one of our preferred partners, but he went the extra mile to get the deal done because the client wanted the house. I mean, that was the bottom line. The client wanted the house. So he paid for the 3rd appraisal, the lender did, and the 3rd appraisal came in good, and he did whatever he needed to do to get the desk review thrown out. So I mean, that's all on their end. Their underwriting guidelines, a lot of times, if you have a local underwriter, if you have a local company, they can have a little bit more leeway in that. So it's like, the Quickens of the world, which I don't know how many closed deals with Quicken. I've never had an issue. They've always done well for me. But if there's ever a problem, that's when having someone local is beneficial because you don't have anybody to talk to. There's no one on your side. It's just there's 19 different people looking at it. They're going to see that it got a 5 appraisal rating, and they're going to be like, okay, we're not going to do that. And that's the bottom line. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So I see you do you do it through Monsoon and you do the RPR.
Yep.
Is there a reason why you don't do a CMA through Armless?
This is kind of what's next is kind of my version of a CMA through Armless.
Oh.
I find it to be way more accurate if I'm looking through and I'm physically picking
That's
the comps.
yeah.
So
Okay.
here's the search that I did. So my neighborhood was very centralized. Like there's a wash here. Once you got on the other side of that, so there's a wash here. So I don't use any of these comps. I still went in a square mile. Close of escrow. I had to go all the way back to October because that other one didn't close within 6 months, and that was obviously my best comp. Like I had to have it in my book. Okay, so and then I look at everything. So here's all the results. Every single thing that's closed. And I don't filter it out, I just look. So how I do it is I know what my price is listed for. So I scroll immediately down to everything that's closed at that price. So I look, okay, what's this one? 2173, it's a 4.2, mine was a 4.3. This is actually one that I included. I included it, it's much bigger than mine, but yes sir.
How many comps did you provide in your booklet or whatever?
Usually as many as I can get, but usually no more than 6. I try not to do any less than 3 because that looks like I'm really reaching. But I try to keep it around 6 because that's usually what they're going to do. They're going to do 6 and they're going to weight it based on how light the property is. They're going to so like the first 3, like I don't know if you guys have ever looked at an appraisal, but the first, yes sir.
Does anybody consider that, hey, as far as sellers are concerned, they have to pay 6% commission?
No.
Does anybody consider that into the price?
There's no, the cost of selling has no bearing on the market value of the property. Because the cost of selling is not set. It can be 2%, it could be 1%, it could be 0%. I could be doing it for free. I can know you, I do it pro bono. And just
What the buyer's willing to buy.
exactly. It's all about what someone's willing to pay for, and but there's a difference between market value and appraised value. I mean, market value is what someone's willing to pay. Appraised value is what someone's willing to lend.
But they do put it on the appraisal if in that area concessions are usually given.
For sure.
They put all that in there.
They'll weigh it in. Like, and I've seen appraisers take out, like, if the purchase price was $290 and you had 2% concessions, they'll say, okay, well, my relative score is, the value I'm looking for is like 285. Okay, that's the score I need to support that value, not 290, because it's not really 290. But again, varies by appraiser. It does. There's no. I think that's every single agent who's done any amount of business will tell you that's their biggest frustration is there's no book. There's no, everybody does this. And it makes sense because a pool in North Scottsdale on the mountain is not going to be the same as a pool in West Peoria and a pool in South Phoenix and a pool in Gilbert. Those values, that they don't mesh. So there can't be, okay, that's 10 grand. Okay, that's 5 grand. It just doesn't work that way. That's why this is such a subjective thing, and the only way to get good at it is to just keep doing it, keep looking and keep looking and keep looking. And I work with, like I said, I work with investors, so this is like, my boring day. I just sit and look at Armless and try to find a property that I think has some value, some we call it spread, some spread that I can make money on. And you're just comping, and it's why I say it's a guess, because I'm guessing. I'm literally guessing. Yes, sir.
On the home you use on your comp, do you use all closed? Is that for
No. I'd prefer to. Okay, I'll prefer to, but if I do pending, I'll do a pending, but I'll also call that agent to say, hey, are you close? What you get? Are you here? And depending on who you're talking to, some people are real nice about it, and some people are really not. So it's just depend. I mean, I don't personally ever have a problem. Like if someone's asking me, hey, did you get listed? But yeah, got listed. I don't see why that should be. They're going to know in 10 days anyways when it closes. Why it's not some giant secret I need to hold, but. Some people feel very differently about that, and I've gotten arguments with people over.
Probably because they didn't get listed.
Well, I mean, it's just like if something goes pending in one day, I mean, odds are pretty high that it got pretty close to what they were asking. Right? I mean, it's
right.
You can't assume that they got 20 grand off. Like I would more lean towards they got what they were asking for. So, but I always make the phone call. I mean, you always should make the phone call because if you put it pending in there, because a lot of times they'll. I don't know if you guys get those emails from appraisers. Hey, we're using your comp.
All the time.
Yeah, we're using your comp. What were the stats? So they'll verify if they're using it. So they won't just rely on MLS because they can't, because real estate agents don't do their jobs all a lot of the time. They don't put the actual. And if a lot of times it'll be accurate right now, but if you go through the Binzer and there's $1,500 credit, that doesn't get added, right? That's not there anymore. No one went through and updated it. So that's your job to make that phone call, I feel like. So, but they'll take it. They'll take it because they'll do the same thing. They'll call, especially if it's tight, especially if you don't have a lot of close comps. They'll call that agent like, hey, we have to use your comp we have to use your pending as a comp. Are you close? What'd you get? Like, what can you tell me? And I've been on the receiving end of that phone call, where. And I try to.
How much information do you give those?
I try not to give specifics. I don't give like an exact dollar amount.
Okay.
Like they'll ask me, "Are you close?" I'm like, yep, we're close. Or are you above list? Yep, we're above list.
Okay.
I try to be as helpful as I can depending on the situation. If it's just some guy asking me if we got close, but if it's an appraiser, I try to be pretty specific because I'm trying to help.
We're all together.
Not only the neighborhood, but like if I want someone to help me out. If they're calling on something that my buyer's buying, I want someone to help me. So I would expect to do the same thing for someone else. This is not an adversarial game. They call it co-broke because we're working together. It's I feel like it's not supposed to be adversarial. I mean, people make it that way, but it's not supposed to be. So this poor soul I'm not gonna show you his name, but he's still on the market. He's been on the market, he's my model match. He's been on the market for 200 days.
Wow.
So,
And hasn't lost it.
it's owner agent.
Oh,
So my house backs to Lake Pleasant Parkway, which, if anybody's been up there with all the new builds going on, is
Nice. Yeah.
pretty busy these days.
Yeah.
When I bought it, it was not. It was pretty quiet because none of the Meritage was there. All those Mary Kay wasn't there yet. It was pretty quiet. So when I sold it, it's pretty noisy getting up there. This guy's across the street, doesn't back. Okay? But he came on before I did. And 100 days before I did. And I was a little worried about it, but then I noticed that his house doesn't have any upgrades. His house has leased solar. His house is original, where mine is not. Mine's put a lot of money into my house. So I wasn't too concerned about it. Holding me down, the appraiser did use it. He put it in his comp sheet, like, hey, this isn't sold for 200 days, but it wasn't, this is what I like to call an outlier. It's, everything else in the neighborhood's moving quick. This one guy is too high because he's original and he has leased solar, which I don't know what you guys feel about solar, but to me it's an impediment if it's leased. But they used it. It was number 6. They had it on there because they didn't have anything else. So I still got, I don't know, I didn't see the appraisal. I feel like they got higher and I feel like I could have priced it higher, but I really just wanted to sell my house and not have 2 mortgages. So I didn't see it. I wish I would have, because it would have helped me it would help me get better. I always ask for, anytime I'm a listing agent, I ask for the appraisal, always. I don't get it all the time, but I always ask because it helps me. If I was close or if it was better, and I like to see what comps they used. Did they use the ones I was using? Did they, it just helps me refine what I'm doing, because at the end of the day, those are the guys who have the control. The appraiser has the control. Until our system changes, those are the guys we need to satisfy. Those are the guys that we need to try to appease. So it just makes sense to do it how they do it, but it's just not something that I can personally speak to because I'm not an appraiser. I don't know what they're exactly pulling. But so here's another one that I used. So smaller, I use this one for leverage, much better. Personally, like this is like the better community compared to mine. Mine was like the middle grade of the communities they built. I used it because of the price per square foot, and sometimes I'll do it just because. Maybe the appraiser's going really fast. Maybe he's not going to verify all the comps. Maybe he's just going to see, oh crap, that guy got that. Yours is way bigger, so you're good. To me, it's a game on how you do this. Like, how did I pull these? Well, I just drew a square, and you can go through here, and I always do. So I did 10, 2. I'll pull back, dependent on how many have sold in the area. So if there's a lot, then I don't need to go far back. I can go back. I prefer to be 3 months because to me that's a better snapshot. If I have to go back 6, I'll go back 6. If I absolutely have to, I'll go back 9, and then I'm really reaching if I'm going back a year. If I'm going back a year, it's only the soup. Like there's such a big difference between what it sold for a year ago and what it sold for now. Like I'm hoping that I can show an appreciation. If I'm going back that far, I don't want to get that number, I need to get better, but if outside of anything else, if that's all I got, then that's all you got. So you can say, okay, well, my house, I'm listed at $295, my contract's $295, I don't want to see anything less than $275. And then I really shouldn't see anything less than, or anything more than $320, because that's probably not a comp. And then dwelling type, obviously you want to be single family detached, style, detached, and then all this other stuff's irrelevant because it's I drew the square, and then that's kind of where I'm going to look hardest. And then bedrooms, I don't know how you guys feel about bedrooms. Mine was a 4-3, could have been a 5-3. If I'm struggling to find anything, then I'll adjust it. But if I can show a 3-2 is worth the same, is got a really high number, and I'm a 4-3, then I would just assume that's going to be a good comp because they're going to adjust it up, not down. Are you guys familiar with adjustments and stuff like that? Like what they say. So if I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and I'm comping a house that's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, like what do you think a reasonable adjustment to that would be?
10,000, 15.
You think?
Depending on the area, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say that bathroom is probably worth 5 because that's what I've seen. I guess it's worth 5, and I'd say the other bedroom, if the square footage is the same in the other bedroom, it depends on the area. If it's Gilbert, it's worth a lot. If it's Central Phoenix, they might not care too much. Yes, sir.
Say you only have like a few comps.
Mhm.
Do you discredit why say there's a comp that's really
Absolutely.
low, do you discredit like this?
So if I only have a few and one got a really low number, I'll pull it up and I'll look at why, and I'll try to find a reason, and I'll try to present that as a reason to the appraiser when I meet him. Like I'll say, okay, well it's not remodeled, or if like in my case, if someone used mine and mine sat for a while, well it backs to Lake Pleasant, that clearly was a detriment, or it smelled like smoke when you went in there. You try to find a reason to. This is all just perception, right? It's perception. You're trying to persuade someone to provide a perception of value because it's an opinion. It's someone's opinion, and you're trying to shape that opinion to support what you want to support, and that's the end goal. So yeah, if there's something that is an outlier, they got really low value, or they sold it, or maybe you know that it was probate and they just needed to move it and they didn't care what they got. The kids didn't care; they just wanted the money, right? I mean.
Right.
That's going to affect sales. Someone's not going to go on the market, so they sold it to an investor. They just wanted a cash offer. They didn't want to deal with it. That's going to affect the neighborhood. But if you're armed with that knowledge of why it did that, why it sold like that, then you can present that to the appraiser and be like, "This is why." I mean, it was probate. They didn't want it. They didn't even go on the market. They sold it off market to an LLC, which it's clear to me that they're going to buy it. They're going to flip it, right? So or rent it, right? So it's all about the perception of what you're trying to accomplish. So bedrooms, I didn't put any bedrooms in this search because everything in my neighborhood was it's going to be at least a 3-2 because it's a family neighborhood. So I felt like anything that was selling in that price range was going to support my value. Okay. Now square footage, this one can be tricky because again they're not. And this is what I try to tell my investors: you're gonna lose every square foot you get higher, you're gonna start losing that price per square foot. So there's not a direct correlation. It's not like this. It's more like this. So now I only have a few comps. Okay. So one of the ones I actually selected now fell out. So it's not showing up anymore because of what I just created. Now, this one was $315 with a pool. In my original booklet, this was included, and I did it knowing that this was a far superior neighborhood, way better location, right by the library and the park. But I did it because they got substantially more than what I needed to get that I felt like there was no way they were going to make more than a $20,000 adjustment for location.
And appraisers really want something to bracket the value.
Exactly. They want something, this is the highest, this is the lowest, you're here, we're good. So it's, and then this one again, I didn't use it because I had a 3-car garage. I didn't feel like I could, that's starting to get where, that's like too many things that are different. So it's a 4.2, it's bigger, 3-car garage, I just felt like I couldn't use it. I think garages are probably worth like 10, like almost very similar to a pool as far as value goes. Some people will only look at 3-car garage houses. I don't know if you've ever had a buyer that would, that's it. They only want 3-car garage. So it's like, it just creates your buying pool. That's why I did that. So this is my search, and this is what I came up with. So I said I'm 295. This guy's 295. This guy's 284, and this is the model match. But it sold so long ago, and it's in my area. Things were not on the market for very long. It sold so long ago that I didn't care that it was 10,000 lower, because I knew that they were going to adjust it and find the value because mine was updated, theirs wasn't. That they were going to find that value, and it's just. And that's why I say you got to meet them, because that's a conversation we had. I said, this is something this sold over 6 months ago in the neighborhood, but not not upgraded, completely original, and my house is upgraded, well, all the things we already discussed. And then, so that's why that conversation, like to Johnny's point, you got to meet them and like you're building a case, I think, is what you're doing in comping. You're building a case to support value. And it depends on what the case is and what your goal is. Like if you're trying to get a better price, you know, I don't know if anybody's ever been successful presenting a listing agent a bunch of comps that shows your house is worth less. Like I've never been successful doing that. You know, most of it just starts an argument, but because everybody feels like, you know, they're accurate with their comps, and you know, it's, to me at that point it's all about what just offer whatever you're going to offer, and if the seller wants it, they'll take it, right? I don't think there's any value in providing comps to a listing agent because I've just never seen it change anybody's mind. They're pretty set, and they'll say the market's going to talk to them. Well, the market will talk to them. Now, as a seller's agent, comps are pretty important. I don't know if anybody else does it, but I provide comps to prospective buyer's agents. I've had buyer's agents call me and be like, "Hey, dude, we really like your property, but we can't find the value. Like, where is it?" And I provide it to them. And you know, I always tell people, if you want to write, like, I'm pretty confident I can get the appraisal. And if you guys want to write, then we'll work with you on it. If you don't, you know, good luck. But I always provide it to them because if they ask me, I feel like it's part of my job because it's I'm trying to sell the house, obviously, right? I'm trying to sell this.
I had a listing agent say there are no comps.
I've said that. I've said that before. Now, okay, so what do you do in that situation, right?
Well, the first rehab in the neighborhood, for instance, you know.
So the house with the desk review. We were the first. Nothing sold in that community for more than 2 years. So we knew when we bought it we were trailblazing, and everybody came in like, there's no way. So what do? You go to the surrounding area. I mean, there are comps, right?
He literally said the seller wants this. I was like, we can't give you that.
Well, okay, there's extreme cases where, but I said that when, like, okay, there's nothing in the community sold for that. Like, I'll give you that. I'll concede that right now because I'd be lying if I told you it was different. But there's always a comp. There's just how far are you going to go? How much are they going to weight it? And then to me that's a judgment call. Okay, if I go more than a mile, then are we talking about a comp? I mean, it depends where you're at. Central Phoenix condos are pretty similar. If you're in a certain area, 7 to 7 from Northern to Bethany, I would look at that whole area and call that a comp. I mean, because the communities are similar, the age bill is similar, the amenities are similar. I would say if you can find a comp in there, then you got a comp. But if you're in Peoria where everything's cookie cutter, then no, you don't have a comp within a mile, then you don't have a comp. You don't have anything. So I've said it. It wasn't entirely accurate because I meant it as very insulated to my community. There's nothing. Like, what are you gonna, like, you can pull up 2 years, you can go back 3 years, and you might find something for $100 grand. Well, we're trying to get 185, so I can't use that. I mean, that's not a comp. So it's all about trying to provide that information. Like, so what do? We went to the next community over. Well, the next community over sold for $200,000, way more than ours, but it was newer built. So we use that as a way to establish a baseline of value. Okay. So if their community is worth X, not remodeled, our community should be worth Y, and here's the reasons why we did it. And it tends to work as long as you're willing to put in the work to provide the information, right? It's just the information. And like, two people say that that's not a comp, but they're going to have to use something. They have to use something. Like, they have to provide. The appraiser has to provide something. So they're going to look, and if you can provide them something that they don't have to go search for, and like, okay, and make a compelling case as to why that would be a comp, then they're going to take it. And that's been my experience over the last 6 years. Is they don't want to work any harder than we do. And if you're going to provide them a really compelling case and a really good reason why to use it, then they're going to do it. In my experience, I've never had anybody be real jerk about it. So, but sometimes there just isn't. Sometimes you got to go do it, and that comes with experience of looking at it. But if there had been nothing sold, I would have had to go to the next neighborhood. I would have had to go, to the next house, because when an appraiser gets the call, he can't say, "Oh, there's no comps. I guess there's no value here." He's got to do something, right? He's got to go. He's got to do something. He's got to come back with 6 properties from somewhere. And if you can influence where those 6 properties are coming from, and what the value is. If that's what you're trying to do, then that's what you do. I mean, like I said, I've said that before, but it's not entirely accurate, but it is. I mean, sometimes it's the case. You just do what you get. You do your best, and that's all you can do, right? You can only make so much. If the seller is going to be completely unreasonable and want $50,000 more than the neighborhood, then A, don't take that listing, and B, just tell them, hey, well, I'll do it, but we're never going to get it, and be completely upfront with them. That's what I do. Just, I'll give you 2 weeks to get that number. If we don't get the number, guess what? We're lowering the price, or you can get a new listing agent. You know, because there's no, I don't have any fun listing a house that's just, I keep getting calls and calls. Why is it not selling? Well, you know why it's not selling. I don't feel like that's a fun phone call to take every day, so I don't do it anymore. Any questions? Anybody have any questions? No. I think that's all I got for now. But
I got a question.
Yeah.
If you're done with that.
Yep.
So Andrew, talk a little bit about comping out properties that are not subdivision, completely custom
Okay.
areas. And,
So if you're out in
like Fountain Hills and things.
okay,
Stuff like that.
so I have a property coming up in Fountain Hills. We're just about finished rehabbing it. Fountain Hills is there are subdivisions in Fountain Hills, there are condo communities in Fountain Hills, but there's also a lot of stuff that was one-offs. There's a lot of one-offs. Or there was a builder, but everything they built was for somebody, right? So what you do in that situation is you're looking at fit and finish, you're looking at amenities of the property, and you're looking at square footage heavily, and you're looking at location in the area. So you don't, like, in our case, I'm not going anywhere farther than a quarter mile out, because I have to provide something that's really close to our house, okay? And then we have a pool and spa, so I'm looking at least has a pool, and we have a 2-car garage, so I'm looking 2-car garage, and ours is 2,100 square feet, so I'm looking from 19 to 2,300. So in those specific cases, you're trying to find a property that's similar to yours. Like, there's not going to be a model match. You're finding similar, and that's where the adjustments come in.
You have a dollar per square foot, really?
I still avoid it if I can. But if I'm looking at something that hasn't been sold, and I know that if I look at all the sales in the last 6 months, and I know that they're all selling for $1.90 a square foot, then okay, I'm going to price mine $1.90 a square foot, or somewhere similar to that, maybe a little higher, right? Because that's all you got. That's the only information you have. So if you're in an area where or if you're in Central Phoenix and you're doing a rehab, and all the houses in Central Phoenix, they're similar but they're not the same. They can all have different styles. If you're in Central Phoenix, you do the same thing. You're looking at square footage, has to be pretty close, because the appraiser's they're gonna be more strict on those. They're gonna be like, okay, it's got to be within 10%. You're looking at square footage. You're looking at is it remodeled? How heavily has it been remodeled? Is it a full remodel? Is it a half remodel? Did they change the electrical? Did they change the AC? Did they do the roof? You know, all those things that are coming into play. And then you want to stay in a certain area. Like, if I have a property east of 12th Street, I don't want to go west of 12th Street. Or if I have a property that's in the 7s, I don't want to go outside the 7s, because that's where the value is, and that's where they're going to be the most similar. But again, there's just no. This is such a hard class to teach, because there's no like hard fast rules. There is no rules. Like, everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to handle this differently. Everybody's going to, like, I'm just showing you different avenues to get to at least start somewhere. Like, so RPR is a great start, and then Monsoon's a great start. But there's always going to be stuff you're going to have to throw out. Like, it'll even tell you on the Monsoon, it says not recommended for comparison.
Right.
You know, it'll tell you that. And then some of these, like, you know, I don't even know why they're in there, but they'll be in there. Yes, sir.
So I would add on RPR, if you're not using it, learn to use it, and the mobile RPR is great, because when if you go show someone 6 properties, you're not, I mean, for buyers,
Yeah, sure.
you're not spending this time comping
No.
all 6 properties before you go show.
No, absolutely.
But then you get out there and you go, does this price look all right? I mean, you can on your phone in 30 seconds pull up that RPR number and go, it appears to be in the ballpark. There's going to be some adjustments we need to look at, but
Right.
that's the nice thing about RPR is the mobile app is phenomenal, because you can get that same number by entering the address when you're
And
staying in
then
the house,
if-
and they go,
if
how's the
anybody-
price on this?
If anybody needs, I mean, we do RPR classes occasionally, and then like our power partner, Lawyer's Title, does RPR classes. It's a super powerful tool. Like, not just for this, but I mean, sellers report. It's super easy. I don't know like, I'm a huge advocate of it, because it's not free, but it's included, you already have it, and it's such a powerful program that, I mean, create a 70-page report for somebody in 2 clicks, and you see,
I find RPR to be within.
it's pretty accurate.
It's a better number than Zillow.
Like never more than $3,000 off.
Yeah.
Where-
It depends. I
where-
mean, I've had it be,
I mean,
I've had it
seen
be off, pretty heavily off, and it's because they're
Rare
not.
occasion.
Well, yeah, I always say if you start at RPR and look at their RBM confidence level, so they have a 5-star rating on that. If they're giving you like 3 stars, it's because they can't find anything that's similar else. Or if it's 4 stars, they're out, but 5 stars, so they give you a range though. I mean, it's again, they're not even giving you, they're giving you this, okay? So you have if I look at here,
Five
Yeah.
stars.
so they're 273 to 302. It's still a range. It's a
I-
5-star rating, but it's still a range.
I'll do a CMA and all that CMA and RPR, and then take them both.
Of course.
And then
I
kind of
do- I
figure
do all-
out,
I
because
do all these
usually
things.
RPR is a little more sometimes, and then CMA is a little less sometimes, and sometimes it's
Well,
right
so
there. But also it
also depends
determins
on
on how you want to sell it quick.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of things that determine on the price.
Sure.
But appraisal and listing price can be two different
And it
things.
depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking to maximize value on a property, and so I'll start with RPR, and then I'll look at the comparables on Monsoon because those are recent. But then I'll always pull that square and just see maybe I missed something, or maybe properties aren't selling for as much as they should be. Maybe someone undervalued something, and that's weighing heavily on, because all they're doing is looking at the comp. They're not looking at why they got that number. Sometimes RPR will flag it and be like, okay, well, that was a probate sale, you probably shouldn't use it. Or that was a third party reverted, you shouldn't use it, got repossessed by the bank for the value they assigned to it, right? So it'll be in there, but you shouldn't use it.
Or it's an estate and kids just sold.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why you should pull your own comps, but those are great places to start. I mean, so to your point, when I'm out showing, I'll pull up my Armless app, okay? And if I'm in a subdivision, I'll just click Monsoon, and I'll look quickly to see what the values are. And if we're in the ballpark, I'll be okay, we're in the ballpark, I need to go comp it, but I think we're close, I don't think it's crazy. Because Monsoon is right on your phone too if you guys have the Armless app. And it's a couple clicks away, and it could provide at least, so you sound like you know what you're talking about, because like you said, I'm not gonna dig into every single property someone wants to go look at, especially if I have a guy who's showing, we've seen 30 over the last 3 months. I'm just not gonna do it. You tell me when you want something, and then we'll dive into it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the point of that. But anybody else have any other questions? Yes.
You said earlier that you would put in the actual listing appointment required.
Yeah.
And so how do you force them to call you?
Because it's just like anybody else. If they have access to our key boxes, they have to follow our guidelines. So if they access my key box and it says listing appointment required, that's a $500 fine if I report them. That's why I always tell people, everybody has to report any of this stuff, because we all police ourselves, and it's the only way to stop crazy stuff like that from happening, or people just showing up when they're not supposed to be. But so that's how you make them call you, is you change that listing appointment required. Even if it's vacant, I put listing appointment required. You have to call me, and then I'll ask him, because sometimes they'll just be like, hey, is it vacant? Is it on lockbox? I'll be like, yes to both, and he's like, well, I'm gonna show up. I'm like, no, when do you want to meet? I'll make him set an appointment with me. And I'll ask him, be specific, when are you going to be there? And then they'll ask me, well, what? I'm like, because I want to be there, I want to provide comps. Try to be, sometimes you have to force the issue. They'll just call you, is it vacant? And then they'll try to hang up. I've had that happen.
Do you kind of bow down to their appointment time, when they're coming?
I'll make it as easy for them as I can. I'm not gonna, if they tell me it's 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, I'll try to be there at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. To me, that appointment that they're setting is probably the most important appointment of that day, right? So I'm gonna, whatever they're setting, that's when I'm gonna be there, because that's payday, right? The appraisal payday. If it comes in, we're good.
Now, having said that, one of the things that really irritates me is when a realtor has done that, when they put that in there, and then you can't reach them.
Oh, of course.
Like,
Yeah, if you have listing permission required and you don't answer your phone, I mean, come on, you're not just not doing your job.
yeah.
You know, I mean,
That happens.
it happens all the time, and we hear about it all the time. People are always saying that, you know, we don't answer our phones, and it's true. We don't answer our phones, and it wouldn't be out there if it wasn't true. It is true. So anybody have anything else?
Where do you list that under? Are you listing it under that, the one you're talking about?
Oh.
Listing appointment required?
Yeah. So it's just in the showing instructions.
Oh, you're doing the showing, okay, I thought it was someplace special, I didn't know.
No. So right here, use showing time, listing permission required. Like right here.
Gotcha.
So it's
So the appraiser has to follow
have
those
to.
instructions?
They have to. If
Anything
anybody
like
has
that.
keyboard access, they have to follow
Okay.
those instructions.
They don't, but
But it's up to us
Well, I didn't
to
realize
enforce
the
it.
appraiser needed to. So
Abs-
that's
anybody.
very-
CBS code also, he used that.
Anybody with CB, well, yeah, exactly. If they have access through, if they're a licensed person, they have access that way, or if they just have CBS code access, it's the same rules. They have to follow those standards. I mean, it doesn't change because they're an appraisal. I mean, what if, you know, families living there? You can't just show up whenever you want, right? So,
great class, Andrew. Thank you.
anybody else?
Very good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. The last video again.
Yeah.
That's the last video.
Yes, sir.
You work out of your house?
So like, yeah, I'm my license is here, but I'm on the west side.
Oh, here.
Here and here.
Over around the I-17.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, like you get on the Proterra area? Or
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, south, yeah. I know, I thought that
You're
was
only on the west side and